paradox of objectivism and anarcho-capitalism. The paradox of objectivism and anarcho-capitalism, opposition, logical extension, and objectivist error. Introduction. Ayn Rand's philosophy of objectivism, centered on reason, individualism, and egoism, and laissez-faire capitalism, has profoundly influenced libertarian thought. At its core, objectivism advocates for a society where individual rights are inviolable and the initiation of physical force is morally condemned. This non-initiation of force principle, non-aggression principle, forms the ethical foundation for a free society. However, tension arises when applying these principles to the role of government. Objectivists, following Rand, staunchly support a minimum state with a monopoly on retaliatory force to protect rights objectively. In contrast, anarcho-capitalism, a system of market-based private defense agencies without any coercive government, extends these same principles to their logical extreme, rejecting even a minimum state as an initiator of force. This essay explores why objectivists oppose anarcho-capitalism. It then examines why objectivism principles arguably make the strongest philosophical case for anarcho-capitalism. Finally, I argue why objectivists are mistaken in their rejection, drawing on critiques from libertarian anarchists to show that their position introduces inconsistencies and underestimates the market's capacity for rights protection. This analysis is substantiated by key thinkers for both sides, revealing a philosophical debate that highlights the boundaries of rational individualism. Why objectivists oppose anarcho-capitalism? Objectivists view anarcho-capitalism as a dangerous and incoherent system that undermines the very rights it claims to protect. Ayn Rand herself dismissed anarchy as a naive floating abstraction, arguing that a society without an organized government would devolve into a rule by the strongest gangs, where physical force replaces reason. This opposition stems from objectivist insistence on objective law, which requires a single monopolistic government to ensure that retaliatory force is used rationally and impartially. Central to this critique is the need for a government monopoly on force. Objectivists argue that individual rights, life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness can only be secured if force is placed under objective control, without a centralized authority. Competing private defense agencies would lead to chaos. For instance, in disputes between agencies with differing roles, one enforcing intellectual property strictly and another leniently, compromises would be necessary to avoid war. But such compromises initiate force against innocent parties by diluting rights protection. Harry Benzwanger and others emphasize that a monopolistic government is essential for a free society because it provides an impartial arbiter, preventing the subjective or arbitrary use of force that could threaten bystanders or escalate into broader conflicts. Gregory Salmari further this by claiming anarcho-capitalism is incoherent. Unilateral retaliatory force, even if justified, appears arbitrary to observers, violating the rights by creating uncertainty and perceived threats, thus necessitating a single law code enforced by a government representing all. Don Watkins reinforces this from an objectivist lens, asserting that government is a positive good, not a necessary evil. Anarchy subordinates right to might, as private agencies would auction force based on market demand, potentially enforcing unjust laws, religious ethics, if profitable, leading to pressure group warfare rather than principled rights enforcement. Historical examples like Somalia or gang-controlled areas illustrate anarchy's failure, while limited governments, 19th century America, showed partial success that could be perfected. Objectivists also reject the anarcho-capitalist market in force because, unlike productive markets where irrationality harms only the actor, irrational force harms innocence, requiring suppression of competing agencies to maintain objectivity. In essence, objectivists see anarcho-capitalism as a form of market anarchy that contradicts the NAP by allowing force to escape objective constraints, potentially balkanizing society into fortified enclaves or devolving into statism through power imbalances. This opposition is not mere preference but a philosophical necessity derived from Ayn Rand's epistemology, which demands concepts tied to reality without contradictions. Why objectivism makes the best case for anarcho-capitalism. Despite this opposition, objectivist core tenets, reason as the absolute, individual rights as inviolable, and rejection of forced initiation, provide a robust foundation for anarcho-capitalism. Many libertarians argue that Rand's philosophy, when consistently applied, demolishes the case for any government, even a minimal one, because such an institution inevitably initiates force to maintain its monopoly. Roy Child's 1969 open letter to Rand exemplifies this, contending that objectivism logically implies free market anarchism. Child's accepts Rand's definition of government as a monopoly on retaliatory force, but demonstrates its inherent coercion. To preserve the monopoly, the government must forcibly suppress competitors, initiating aggression and becoming statism. Allowing competition devolves the monopoly, yielding anarchism. This creates a contradiction in limited government, blending voluntarism with statism, making it floating abstraction untethered from reality. Childs refutes Rand's fears of chaos under anarchy by analogizing, just as markets provide food without government monopoly, they can supply protection via competing agencies guided by rational self-interest and contracts to resolve disputes peacefully. Murray Rothbard, a pioneer of anarcho-capitalism, echoed this by building on Rand's individualism while rejecting her minarchism as inconsistent. Rothbard viewed objectivism as overly cultish, but praised its emphasis on spontaneous order and condemnation of central planning, extending these to full private property and anarchism. Objectivism, rational egoism, supports a society where defense is a market service, not a coercive tax-funded entity, aligning with the free market's efficiency in allocating resources. Even objectivist voluntary government funding, via lotteries or donations, hints as anarchism, and it removes coercion but retains a monopoly that must be enforced violently. Thus, objectivism's uncompromising stance against force and for individualism arguably culminates in anarcho-capitalism, where rights are protected through voluntary, market-driven mechanisms rather than a privileged institution. Why objectivists are wrong about anarcho-capitalism. Objectivists' rejection of anarcho-capitalism, while principled, is ultimately flawed, resting on unsubstantiated assumptions about markets, force, and human nature that contradict their own philosophy of reason and evidence. Their arguments introduce inconsistencies and fail to address viable anarcho-capitalist solutions. First, the insistence on a force monopoly as necessary for objectivity is question-begging. David Gordon criticizes Solmonary's claim that unilateral force threatens bystanders. If retaliation is evidence based on proportionate, observers have no rational basis to perceive it as an arbitrary without assuming a monopoly as a priori. Markets can foster objectivity through reputation and arbitration, competing agencies motivated by profit and self-interest would standardize rules via contracts and appeals courts, much like international law operates without a world government. Objectivists underestimate this, assuming competition and force must lead to war, but history shows governmental wars are far more deadlier, while private disputes in medieval Iceland's system resolved peacefully more often. Second, the fear of compromises or power imbalances ignores market dynamics. Watkins' auction analogy misrepresents anarcho-capitalism. Agencies enforcing unjust laws, Sharia, would lose customers in a rational culture. As objectivism posits, and be outcompeted by right-respecting ones. Power imbalances exist under government. 2. Corruption, cronyism, but markets allow entry and innovation, preventing permanent monopolies. Childs notes that rational agents would preempt violence through treaties, rendering objectivist doomsday scenarios irrational. Notably, Childs later recanted, calling anarchism incoherent and dangerous for corrupting libertarian strategy toward fantasy outcomes. But this pragmatic retreat doesn't refute his logical points. It reflects political realism, not philosophical truth. Third, objectivism, minimal government, is impractical and initiatory. Voluntary funding sounds ideal, but enforcing a monopoly requires suppressing competitors, initiating force against peaceful actors. Limited governments historically expand from constitution to welfare state, suggesting minarchism is unstable, while anarcho-capitalism decentralization resists such growth. Rothbard highlighted this inconsistency in Rand's thought, arguing her anti-statism should reject all coercive monopolies. Objectivism err by prioritizing an abstract objectivity under empirical market efficiency, contradicting their epistemological call for context and evidence. Anarcho-capitalism, far more incoherent, realizes objectivist ideals more fully by banishing force entirely, even from benevolent institutions. In conclusion, objectivists oppose anarcho-capitalism to safeguard objective rights through governmental monopoly, fearing market anarchy's descent into subjectivity and violence. Yet objectivism's principles of non-force and individual logically extend to anarcho-capitalism as articulated by thinkers like Childs and Rothbard. Ultimately, objectivists are wrong because their critiques rely on unproven assumptions about market failures in force, ignore successful non-governmental dispute resolution, and tolerate initiatory elements in minarchism. Embracing anarcho-capitalism would resolve these tensions, creating a truly rational, voluntary society where reason, not coercion, reigns supreme. Okay. Now that we finished the main crux of it, now let's get to the I want to get more into Ayn Rand's idea of competing governments as a result of anarchism. So let's go back. I want to talk about Leonard Peikoff. Okay, so let's continue on here. Leonard Peikoff's critique of anarchism in Objectivism, the philosophy of Ayn Rand and why it fails. If you ever read this book, there's a section in this book about anarchy and why he rejects anarchy. Introduction and context of the quote. In Objectivism, the philosophy of Ayn Rand, Leonard Peikoff, Ayn Rand's intellectual heir, systemizes her philosophy, including its political implications. In the chapter on government, Peikoff addresses anarchism briefly but dismissively. The quote in question, "Anarchoism is merely an unusually senseless form of statism. It is not an extreme of freedom, but the negation of the concept," appears in his discussion of why proper society requires a minimal government with a monopoly on retaliatory force. Peikoff argues that without such a monopoly, society devolves into chaos, where competing groups or individuals wield force subjectively, effectively creating multiple states or gangs that initiate force against one another. This, he claims, negates the concept of freedom, which depends on objective laws and rights protection under a single authority. Peikoff's view echoes Rand's own rejection of anarchy as a naive floating abstraction that ignores human nature and leads to gang rule. He portrays anarchism not as a radical extension of liberty, but as its antithesis, because it allegedly abandons the objective control of force, allowing might to determine right. However, this characterization is fundamentally flawed. Drawing from libertarian critiques, particularly those of anarcho-capitalists who build on objectivist principles, pretty ironic, huh? Peikoff's argument represents anarchism, introduces contradictions into objectivism, and fails to substantiate why a market force must lead to statism rather than enhance freedom. Peikoff's argument explained. Peikoff's dismissal stems from objectivism's core tenets: reason as the guide to action, individual rights as absolutes, and non-initiation of force principle. NAP. He defines government as the institution that places a retaliatory force under objective control, holding a monopoly to prevent subjective or arbitrary use of force. Anarchism, in his view, rejects this monopoly, leaving force to individual discretion or competing agencies. This leads to several problems, however. Number one, subjective force and chaos. Without a single arbiter, disagreements over evidence, justice, or punishment would escalate into violence. Peikoff claims anarchoism implies that anyone who can use force as they see fit, ignoring honest disagreement and deliberate evil, resulting in gang rule or strongman dominance. Number two, negation of freedom. He says freedom requires objective laws known in advance, enforced impartially. Anarchism, by allowing competing governments, negates this by subordinating rights to might, making it a form of statism. Multiple coercive entities rather than one limited one. Number three, association with collectivism. Peikoff links anarchism to utopian collectivism. Karl Marx, suggesting it assumes automatic harmony among men without institution, which ignores reality. In essence, Peikoff sees anarchism as senseless because it destroys the conceptual framework for a free society, reverting to a pre-civilized barbarianism under the guise of liberty. Now let's explore why Peikoff is wrong, misrepresentation, and logical inconsistencies. Peikoff's critique is unconvincing and erroneous on multiple fronts. It relies on strawman portrayals, ignores market mechanisms for order, contradicts objectivist epistemology and ethics, and fails to address how a government monopoly itself initiates force, making minarchism, minimal statism, the true negation of freedom. Critiques from thinkers like Roy A. Childs, Murray Rothbard, and others reveal their flaws. These flaws. Number one, misrepresentation of anarchism as chaos or arbitrary force. Peikoff equates anarchism with the absence of any organized protection, leading to individuals arming themselves irrationally or society collapsing into a fortress. This ignores the anarcho-capitalist model, which proposes voluntary, market-based institutions, private defense agencies, PDAs, arbitration courts, and insurance companies to handle rights protection. Far from arbitrary, these would operate under objective rules derived from the NAP, with laws forbidding only force, initiation, or fraud, disputes resolved through contracts and reputation. Rothbard, for instance, advocated an objective law code based on individual rights applied by competitive private courts, drawing from common law traditions, not fighting it out as Peikoff implies. Critiques note that Peikoff's gang rule prediction is unsubstantiated and contradicts objectivism's benevolent universe premise, which holds that reality is knowable and success possible through reason. If men are rational egoists, as objectivist posits, they would prefer peaceful cooperation via market incentives, not violence, which is costly and self-destructive. Historical examples like international relations, anarchy among nations without global government, and show conflicts but not constant chaos, and private disputes often resolve amicably. Moreover, Gull's Gulch in Altus Shrug functions as an anarchic society without government, where rational individuals live harmoniously, undermining Peikoff's claim. That's pretty ironic. Peikoff's smear by associating anarchism with Marxist collectivism is argument by intimidation, ignoring individualist anarchists like Rothbard, who grouped their views in reason and rights, aligning closely with Rand. Number two, anarchism as the opposite of statism, not its form. Peikoff's core error is labeling anarchism statism. Statism is the doctrine that the state is necessary and has broad powers over individuals. Anarchism rejects the state entirely, advocating voluntary associations. If competing PDAs emerge, they aren't mini-states unless they initiate force, which true anarcho-capitalism prohibits. Peikoff assumes competition in force leads to might makes right, but market penalizes irrationally. Agencies enforcing unjust rules would lose customers and go bankrupt in a rational culture. Child's open letter demonstrates this logically. A minimal government to maintain its monopoly must forcibly suppress competitors, even efficient rights respecting ones, thus initiating force and becoming status. If it allows competition, it ceases to be a monopoly and yields anarchy. Hence, limited government is a contradiction, a floating abstraction, blending voluntarism and coercion, while anarchism consistently applies the NAP by eliminating all initiatory force, including from benevolent states. Governments as monopolies exacerbate conflicts. Wars are deadlier under states, whereas private agencies driven by profit favor arbitration. Peikoff's insistence on monopoly for objectively assumes individuals can't delegate a retaliation rationally, or that markets can't provide objectivist standards. Yet objectivism trusts markets in every other realm. Yeah, interesting, huh? Food production, for example, without monopolies. This underestimates human reason, contradicting the philosophy's emphasis on independence and rationality. 3. Internal contradiction in objectivism's minarchism. By rejecting anarchism, Peikoff introduces inconsistencies into objectivism. Rand proposed voluntary government funding via lotteries, but enforcing a monopoly requires coercion against non-aggressors. Historical minimal states expand into welfare states, showing minarchism instability, while anarchism's decentralization resists power concentration. Critiques argue objectivism, ethics, and epistemology, reason for survival, rights from egoism, logically imply anarchism, as Rothbard's non-aggression principle integrates these without state intervention. Peikoff's one-sidedness makes his argument unconvincing even in objectivism, lacking context, hierarchy, and evidence-based reasoning. Anarchism enhances freedom by marketizing protection, aligning with laissez-faire capitalism more fully than minarchism. In conclusion, Peikoff's claim that anarchism is senseless statism and the negation of freedom stems from a flawed assumption that order requires coercive monopoly. In reality, it misrepresents anarcho-capitalism, which provides objective, voluntary alternatives to state force, avoiding the initiatory elements in even minimal governments. By consistently applying objectivist principles, non-initiation of force, rational self-interest, and market efficiency, anarchism emerges as the true extreme of freedom, not its negation. Peikoff's error lies in prioritizing an abstract objectivity over empirical and logical consistency, weakening the philosophy he seeks to defend. Now we're going to tackle Ayn Rand's claim that anarchism is a form of competing governments. Here's the explanation critique, and then we'll finish up here. This is going to be a short one. Okay, so Ayn Rand, the founder of Objectivism, was a staunch advocate for laissez-faire capitalism and a minimal government limited to protecting individual rights through police, courts, and military. However, she vehemently opposes anarchism, particularly the market-oriented variant known as anarcho-capitalism, which proposes private defense agencies, PDA, competing in a free market to provide security and justice without a coercive state. In her essay, The Nature of Government from the Virtue of Selfishness, I recommend this book, Rand characterizes anarchism not as the absence of government, but as a system of competing governments. This claim encapsulates her view that anarchism fails to eliminate statism and instead multiplies it, leading to inevitable conflict. In this essay here, first elucidates what Rand means by this assertion, first, then drawing on her own writings and related objectivist commentary. It then will argue here, I will argue why she is mistaken, highlighted logical inconsistencies and misrepresentation of anarchism, and the superior consistency of anarcho-capitalism with her own principles of reason, rights, and non-initiation of force. What Ayn Rand means by anarchoism as competing governments. Rand's critique targets what she perceives as a flawed analogy between economic competition and the realm of physical force. She argues that anarchists, specifically anarcho-capitalism, like Murray Rothbard, though she doesn't name him, mistakenly treat government as just another industry where competition could improve efficiency as it does in business. In her own words, she says, a recent variant of anarcho-systemic theory, which is befuddling some of the younger advocates of freedom, is a weird absurdity called competing governments. Accepting the basic premise of the modern statists who see no difference between the functions of government and the functions of industry, between force and production, and who advocate government ownership of business, the supporters of competing governments take the other side of the same coin and declare that since competition is so beneficial to business, it should also be applied to government. Instead of a single monopolistic government, they declare there should be a number of different governments in the same geographical area, competing for the allegiance of individual citizens, with every citizen free to shop and to patronize whatever government he chooses. So what does she mean by competing government? She means that in an anarchist society, multiple private agencies would offer protective services, enforcing contracts, resolving disputes, and retaliating against aggressors, but each would operate under its own rules and procedures. Citizens would subscribe to these agencies voluntarily, much like buying insurance or hiring a security firm. However, Rand contends this setup doesn't abolish government. It fragments it into rival entities, which acting as mini government with the power to use force. However, the key issue here for Rand is the nature of force. Unlike productive markets where competition fosters innovation and value creation without harming others, competition and retaliatory force invite subjectivity and conflict. If two agencies disagree on a case, say one's views an action of self-defense while another sees it as aggression, they can't simply compete economically. Their dispute would escalate to physical confrontation as a force in their domain. Rand elaborates, remember that forcible restraint of men is the only service the government has to offer. Ask yourself what a competition in forcible restraint would have to mean. One can imagine such a competition only in society where men are using force against one another, where the degree of force is the only difference among the competitors, and where the fattest bankroll hires the strongest gang. In this view, anarchoism devolves into gang warfare, where the strongest or wealthiest agency dominates, effectively recreating statism through might makes right. Rand sees this as a negation of objective law. A proper government monopolizes force to ensure its use impartially and rationally, based on a single code of rights, derived laws. Anarchoism, by allowing competition, subordinates rights to arbitrary power struggles, making it not an extreme of freedom, but its antithesis, a floating abstraction detached from reality. Objectivists like Leonard Peikoff echo this, calling anarchoism an unusually senseless form of statism. Rand's claim thus stems from her epistemology. Concepts must tie to reality, and ethics, rights require objective protection. She dismisses anarchoism as naive, akin to collectivist utopias that assume harmony without structure, ignoring human fallibility and the need for centralized arbiter. Now, why is Ayn Rand wrong now? Logical flaws and misrepresentations. Hopefully you would have heard them and picked up on them, but here we'll explore them anyway. While Rand's critique is rhetorically powerful, it's ultimately incorrect, resting on straw man arguments, unproven assumptions about markets and force, and inconsistencies with her own philosophy. Libertarian anarchists, including those influenced by objectivism like Roy A. Childs, have demonstrated that anarchism does not create competing governments, but eliminates coercive governments altogether, replacing it with voluntary market-driven institutions that better uphold individual rights. Below, I'm going to outline some key errors here in the position. The first one is misrepresentation of anarchoism as governments. Rand's labeling as PDA as governments is a semantic sleight of hand. A government, by her definition, is a coercive monopoly of retaliatory force, funded ideally, voluntarily but enforced against competitors. In anarcho-capitalism, however, agencies are private firms offering services on contractual basis without the right to initiate force or tax. Customers can switch providers freely, and agencies must compete on merit, efficiency, fairness, and reputation rather than coercion. This is not competition of force, but competition in providing objective justice, analogous to competing arbiters or insurance companies today, with resolved disputes peacefully without being called governments. Childs, in his 1969 open letter to Rand, exposes this. If an agency tries to act like a government, imposing rules non-consensually, it violates the non-aggression principle, which anarcho-capitalism shares with objectivism. True anarchism prohibits such initiation of force, making Rand's gang scenario of protection of statism flaws onto a voluntary system. Rand assumes agencies will inevitably clash violently, but she ignores market incentives. War is expensive and destroys customer bases, so rational agencies would establish treaties, appeals courts, and standardized procedures to avoid it, just as international business do without government. Second flaw, the monopoly government initiates force. Contradicting objectivism, Rand's minimal state requires suppressing competing agencies to maintain its monopoly, which inherently initiates force against peaceful actors, a direct violation of her non-initiation principle. If a better PDA emerges, offering superior rights protection voluntarily, the government must ban it coercively to preserve objectivity. This makes minarchism, minimal statism, the true form of initiatory force, not anarchism. Child argues this creates a contradiction. Objectivism's logic demands rejecting all coercion, leading to anarchism and the consistent application of egoism and rights. Historical evidence supports this. Limited government expand over time. The U.S. from republic to regulatory state, as power attracts corruption, while decentralized markets resist monopolization. Rand's fear of gang rule under anarchy is empirically unfounded. Examples like medieval Iceland provide legal system or modern private security show voluntary order is possible. Number 3 flaw, underestimation of market efficiency and human reason. Rand champions free markets in production, but arbitrarily exempts force from them, assuming competition there must lead to subjectivity. This contradicts her epistemology, which holds that reason can guide all human action, including dispute resolution. In a rational culture, which objectivism aims to foster, markets would select for objectivist agencies. Irrational or aggressive ones would lose clients and fail, while those adhering to rights-based laws thrive. Objectivity emerges from voluntary consensus, not top-down imposition. So critics like Roderick T. Long note that Rand's seminar comments, posthumously published, reveal her arguments as dogmatic, lacking engagement with anarchist counterpoints. Her dismissal ignores that governments as monopolies are prone to bias and inefficiency. Problems markets resolve through competition. Okay, last one, number 4, last flaw. Philosophical inconsistency with objectivist core. Ultimately, Rand's position negates her own ideals. Objectivism posits that no one has a right to initiate force, yet her own government does so to quash competitors. Anarchism realizes laissez-faire fully by prioritizing protection, aligning with Rand's vision of society where reason, not force, governs interactions. As Childs concludes, objectivism implies anarchism. Rejecting it introduces statism under the guise of limited government. Now, finish up your conclusion. Ayn Rand means that anarchism, by allowing competing defense agencies, doesn't eliminate government, but proliferates it into rival coercive entities, leading to chaos and the subversion of rights. However, she is wrong because this view mislabels voluntary services as governments, overlooks how markets foster peaceful, objective order, and tolerates initiatory force in her own minimal state, contradicting her philosophy. Anarcho-capitalism extends objectivism logically, offering a truly voluntary society where freedom is maximized through reason and mutual benefit. Okay.
So I think that covered all the bases, the contradiction there and the flaws
In their argument, and I hope it's pretty clear.
Yeah, that whole idea there
Of claiming that anarchism would lead to all these different competing governments when they themselves advocate for free market. Free market would reduce monopolies. So I don't get their anarchist logic there. I can't understand why they can't see the contradiction. It's amazing. It's amazing why they can't see it.
Okay. That covered that, and so we go to the game portion now.
Hope you found the first part of the show enjoyable. Hope it's informative. You understand the flaws and the logical contradiction. The objectivist rejection of anarchism. I never understood that either. When I read that book by Peikoff, that can't be right. That can't be. Those are bots on it. Yeah, I remember reading that part in Anarchism and his rejection and dismissing it so much. And then Ayn Rand's book, The Virtue of Selfishness, I couldn't understand why they just seem like they're just advocating for anarchism. The whole philosophy is set up as a philosophy, philosophical foundation for anarcho-capitalism. Yes, I don't get why they do that. I think a lot of modern objectivists are now more open to anarcho-capitalism. And if you want to explore more with these kind of debates, I'd recommend Fabian. I can't join the Weimar. I have to join the Allen. Yeah, there. Fabian Liberty is another channel I'd recommend. Oh, here's Avalanche. Here's the map that that I made, or I'm making right now, for Wolfie 2. I made the rooms just like this. Well, it was about the closest I could get. Let's see. Oh yeah. You got a little more houses back there. I'm gonna go upstairs here. He's up there. Yeah, he's up there. There's a ramp that goes up there. I don't know why you would need a ramp. He's got me. Gosh darn it. Let me refresh this. Refresh my YouTube stream there. It's a little lagging. There it goes. Let's see my update. Hey, no. Oh, I didn't know that. So against
anarchism. It's the closed objectivist, they call it. This one goes on the roof. I couldn't see that.
Yeah, I mean, they advocate for laissez-faire capitalism, free market, voluntary society, right? And it would help. It would foster competition, which would decentralize government. But then you turn around and say anarchism is a form of government, and it creates competing gangs or governments that would create a monopoly or oligarchy, as they say. Yeah.
How did you come to that conclusion? Free market, okay. And then they even advocate for a minimum government to enforce, to crush competition. But it doesn't make any sense. By their own philosophy, it makes no sense. Zero sense. Oh, sorry.
I could.
It makes zero sense.
The more I read that,
It's mind-boggling. What are they thinking? Why would they reject anarchy? And why would they feel the need for a minimal government that's going to destroy competition? Isn't that contradict their non-aggression?
well, it completely contradicts their non-aggression principle. And it's true, historically, when you start with a minimal government, it always turns into a giant government. Like our American government was founded by aristocrats, and it was founded as an aristocratic republic. But what did it turn into? One of the biggest governments the world ever seen, and it has a monopoly of violence. So I don't know how they can square that circle. I don't know how they can reconcile that contradiction there. They oppose the use of force, yet they initiate the use of force to get rid of competition. Because if they had competition, that means there'd be too many competing governments. Totally mischaracterization of anarchism. Weird. I don't get that. Ah, damn, blam it.
You want some competing form of private agency. You don't want to centralize. You don't want any minimum kind of government. It's just the government. Any minimum government that exists at all is violence. It's evil.
And it will just come back to itself again.
It would come back to a large government again. Bureaucratic mess. I don't get it. Have competing forms of government. That's what you want. You want competing forms of private insurance companies, private security companies. You wanted that to break up the monopoly of the government. Yeah, the first time I read that book by Leonard Peikoff, the introduction of epistemology, I thought, boy, this is making a strong case for anarchism. Get around to the part about anarchy.
That don't make no sense. Tell me what I'm missing. Can you not see the contradiction? I'd recommend Liquid Zulu again. I recommend his videos. Michael Malice, of course. And Fabian Liberty, that's another channel. Any channels along that line. With objectivism, it's the best form of government.
It keeps the private agencies rational as rational actors. It incentivizes rational behavior, and it penalizes irrational actors.
Romeo, please move.
Oof. They got this place pretty well covered. We've won round. I said that correctly. Does. You get the same vibe. Oh, Jesus. How are they doing over there? Oh, they're on. Well, it's dead right now. Market Street. No Market Garden. Let's see. Yep. Oh, I know this one. You know, I think my building too tall. Damn it. Yeah, they just blocked it. They have it so well covered. This has so much more detail in this game. I gotta, what? thinking about that again. It's so bizarre. They're against competing form of government. If there is a competing form of government, they're going to initiate force against it. It's like, what? Isn't that contradict the non-aggression principle?
And it makes no sense.
Oh boy. Shiny. You got it. He's camping in that corner. Someone do something about him. I love the way they float up the stairs. Oh! Pick up the grenade. Good luck trying to get up there. I'll just go up the steps. Man, why do they always go so fast up the steps? Does this lead out to the... Yeah, it leads out to the exit. Where I just came from. Finally made it in there. Did they get rid of that guy? That camper? Yeah, dominating. Being dominated. Let me see. I know. Oh.
We need to cross. Come on.
Yeah. That's what I said. Maybe when we're done playing here. When we're done playing here, in about 10 minutes or so, maybe the server will be full. Huh? Who's shooting what here? Ah, that bastard. Just want a couple of snack things. All right. Now, I think I did a pretty decent job copying this map. I'll show you my version of Avalanche. A little bit different. Mostly the same. Wait a minute.
Let's see what the textures look like inside here. Oh, okay. Just like white. Okay. So I probably should change that to sort of more tan color like that. Whoa! Oh shit. We're gonna be... Don't shoot at me. Let's go. Let's go get the middle one. No. Not on my... I like to do another video, like maybe next week I want to do like why socialists who advocate socialism make the same arguments that Holocaust deniers do. And I think Tick History did a video like that already, but I like to do a little more expanding more on that topic. Because the socialists, they're just genocide deniers. They deny any of the genocide that happened in their socialist countries, or they won't even say it's socialist. So anytime socialist country painted into a negative picture or has a negative outcome, they just say it's not the real one. So they can never actually point to a real socialist country. And they do point to a socialist one that's just a lie anyway. They point to some of those Scandinavian countries. They're not socialist. So they're just genocide deniers. They deny any genocide in their own socialist countries. Or just deny it's even socialist country. But at least the German National Socialists will admit that Hitler was a socialist and they explain why Hitler's socialism failed. So they're okay. So, no, Hitler and the German National Socialists, no, those are real socialists. So they're not really denying they're socialists. The others do, though. When you point out to some horrible socialist nightmare country, they go, that's not real socialism. They always denied socialism. They never can point to an actual real one, as an example. The other things they try to do, they try to make socialism happen in a mixed economy country like America. Wow, we're getting on quite. This way. Wow, this way. Let's go this way. Man, that guy's a bullet sponge. He's coming. Headshot. Well, we can get into that next time. So they either deny what a socialist country is, no true Scotsman argument, or they say the reason why their socialism failed was because of this, that, and the other thing. And they just say they just deny the genocide. Those are the three kind of main points they always do. And these people are just insufferable. Some of them actually just admit that, the reason why that genocide happened there in that country is because it has something to do with what was the hell I always say? Oh, it's the necessary, yeah. All the deaths and the slavery and the labor camps there, they are necessary to achieve socialism, which completely contradicts the Marxian theory.
completely contradicts it. Makes no sense. There's no need to push socialism. But if they actually read the theory, they would understand it. They wouldn't push for socialism. Marx would always advocate for things and push for things that would bring about capitalism as soon as possible so it could transition into the final stage, which is pure democracy, communism. Now, we're just not going, we're going someplace, but we're just let me see how FA is doing. They switched map to Supply Depot 2. I'm dead, I don't understand. Right. Let's move them out, boys. Okay, let's. No one's voting for another map. It's just the same guy over and over again. I think the flaw on this map is that you can't get a good angle on that courtyard. You get a good angle on there, so you get rid of those campers. See, this goes up, and this just faces kind of. Oh, shit! Just about to throw a grenade down there. See how kick jump. Oh, there it goes. It's doing fine. Yep. It has the old name. Why does it have that name on there? My Valkyrie. I gotta have to change the title after this. Can kind of get an angle on it if you get up on that near the church. I understand what. Okay, we can go up here. Whoa. Oh man, that guy almost got me. Damn it. No one's coming out over there. Finally got that bastard. Got me. Okay. I think, Jesus.
I'm switching to Wolf ET. It's okay now. They're gonna change the map anyway, so let's get out of here. Oh my goodness. It's terrible. Always get stuck. Alright, I'm gonna change the mod to like do the same old thing. Play. Where is it? Oh. What's it downloading? Supply depot fixed? What do you mean fixed?
Dynamite tackle.
Oh, okay. I'll be this time I get to be German on this side.
They have destroyed the depot defenses.
Okay. Alright, where are they planting dynamite? Oh, we gotta go repair.
Yeah, I need ammo. Incoming.
Get out of the way.
Killing spree.
Okay.
All right. Need a medic.
Okay. Yeah, I need a medic too.
Need a medic. Killing spree. I'm constructing. Depot defenses constructed.
Depot defenses constructed. Okay.
Killing spree. Dynamite planted.
Let me reload my YouTube stream.
Need a medic.
Okay. There we go.
Need a medic. I'm a medic. Need a medic. I'm a medic. Need a medic. I'm a medic.
Damn it.
They have destroyed the depot defenses.
Again.
Defend our objective. Defend our objective. Depot defenses constructed. Rampage. Need a medic. Negative. Bitte, sir. Fire in the horn. Need a medic. 5 minutes.
Jeez.
No.
Oh. Can't see him. Couldn't see him.
Defend our objective.
They developed the. Oh my, what?
9.
I don't know what they're talking about.
Killing spree. Defend our objective.
How is map design? What? What? What do you mean? How is map designed? I don't get it.
Fire in the hole. Nine problem. Need a medic. They have destroyed the depot defenses. Attack. Need a medic. Danke.
Okay.
Danke.
You were working on a map a month ago.
Defend
Oh
our
yeah.
objective. Defend our objective. Defend our objective. Killing spree. Command post. They have constructed a command post. Killing spree. Hello? Hi. Need a medic. Depot defenses constructed. Medic. Fire in the hole. Medic.
Asking about my avalanche map.
They have destroyed the depot defenses. Incoming. Medic. 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 Killing spree. Constructed. Landmine spotted. Check your command map.
Killing spree.
Landmine spotted. Check your command map. Landmine spotted. Check your command map. Construction completed. There are only 2 minutes. They have taken the first floor street.
Snake.
Fire away, baby.
Snake.
They have secured the first floor street. Great shot. Defend our objective. Defend our objective. Stop the truck.
Aha, I got him from under the truck. There's only one control crate. Ba-ba-dum-ba-dum.
Incoming.
Killing spree.
Let me see.
Good game.
We're gonna lose this one.
Good game. Construction destroyed.
Rampage.
Defend our objective. Defend our
Killing spree.
You know, what's our hurry?
Hi. Good game.
Killing spree.
Good game. Hi.
Rampage.
Fire in the hole. Good game.
Rampage.
Yep. Okay. Break time.
Prepare to fight.
Hello. Hello. Hi. Hi.
First blood.
Dynamite planted. Don't let them capture the forward bunker. Hello. Hello. Hi. Hello.
Okay.
They have
First
captured
blood.
the forward bunker. Forward bunker
Need a medic.
reclaimed. They have
Just
captured
let him have the forward bunker.
Dynamite planted.
I need backup.
Forward bunker reclaimed. They have captured the forward bunker.
Hmm?
Killing spree.
Destroyed. Objective destroyed.
Ah, something's coming on the other.
Destroyed. Destroyed. Destroyed.
Killing spree.
Construction completed.
Yeah.
Killing spree.
Always. What's going on? Man, long spawn time. Not enough people on here. Now, what was that guy just sitting there? He wasn't even shooting his gun. Stupid bot.
Rampage. Killing spree.
Hmm. You know, when we used to play this game, I started playing this game some time ago. Again, it used to be kind of like this when I play around like 5:30 or 6:30 my time. But now look at it. This is Friday. Gonna wait until 10 o'clock. It might start filling up in about 10 minutes.
Killing spree.
There, I close it. Shit. Not that it's any importance.
Need a medic.
Yeah. Slick or Zuhu. Take your pick.
Killing
We need one of those
spree.
two.
Killing spree. Rampage. Whoops. Killing spree. I'm a medic.
Jesus.
Killing spree.
Yeah, it's spamming grenades from below our
Objective
this,
taken. They have taken
switching
the first
area.
gold crate.
Incoming! Incoming!
Medic. Need a medic.
Need a medic. Need a medic.
Got slick.
Objective taken. They've taken the first gold crate.
Double kill!
Objective secure. First gold crate returned. Yeah! Objective taken.
Ah,
Need a medic.
wasn't paying attention.
First gold crate returned. Objective secure. Objective taken. They have taken the first gold crate.
Killing spree!
Jesus.
Killing spree! You're welcome. I need ammo.
Objective
Enemy is
taken.
weakened.
Hey, you gotta stop that. You don't come into our spawn.
Rampage!
Objective taken.
Killing spree!
Need a medic.
Excellent.
Oh,
First gold crate returned. Objective secure. Objective taken. They have taken
There
the
you go.
first gold crate.
oh, push the button.
Dominating!
Medic.
Objective secure. First gold crate returned. Objective taken. They have taken the first gold crate.
Medic. Medic.
Do.
Killing spree! I need ammo.
Objective taken. First gold crate returned. Objective secure. They have taken the first gold
ammo.
crate.
How much time do we have? Oh,
I need ammo. Killing spree! Double kill!
Gold crate returned. Objective secure. Objective taken. They have taken the first gold crate.
I need ammo.
30 seconds.
Killing spree!
They have secured the first gold crate.
Okay.
Danke, sir. Rampage!
Oh,
They have taken the second gold crate. Objective taken.
Double kill!
shit. There you go. 5 minutes.
Killing spree!
Objective secure. Second gold crate returned. Objective taken. They have taken the second gold crate.
Killing spree.
I need ammo.
Double kill. Triple kill. Killing spree.
Yeah. Okay.
Dominating.
They're getting close. Okay.
Medic!
He's-
Medic! Medic!
They have taken the second gold crate.
yeah.
Second gold crate. Return.
Okay. They were close. They were right there by the truck.
Objective taken.
Rampage.
Yeah.
Rampage.
Second gold crate. Return. Objective secure. Objective taken. They have taken the second gold crate.
Oh.
Objective taken. Second gold crate. Return. Objective secure.
He's... I can't get the flamer. I want the flamethrower, but the other player took it already. Ah, okay. 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 Oops. They're down there already?
Killing spree.
Spam those grenades from them.
They are only 2 minutes.
Killing spree.
Sorry.
Killing spree.
I'm gonna push the button. Get out of the way.
Hold your fire. Dunker.
Objective secure. Second gold crate. Return.
Killing spree.
Objective taken. They have taken the second gold crate.
Double kill.
Need a medic!
Nope. Okay, I don't think they're gonna win it. Yeah, we got it secured. No way they're gonna win it. 30 seconds.
Killing spree.
Negative.
Killing spree. Double kill.
Need a medic.
Well, pirates. Well, let's see. 2 hours. That's good enough. Pirates. All right. Okay. Thanks for coming out, guys, and hope you enjoyed the topic. And we'll continue with something. I don't know. I said what we might do
next week. We'll see, though. I might change that. But anyway, stay tuned. And then we'll see you on, what is it, Sunday for the model build.